winter coats for I don't know how many track meets, and then got to state and it was 90 degrees that day.
That's a killer on your kids for sure.
It is, and you're hot and you're sunburned by the end of the day. So
Sure. All right, I'll mute myself and so I don't hog up the airwaves here.
you're fine. We're just waiting for the 2 o'clock hour to start. So I'm seeing a good number of people joining us. Chelsea, how's the weather in your area?
Cold and windy,
Okay.
but it looks like the sun's trying to peek through.
Yeah, I think we're getting some filtered sunshine here too. I guess it's pretty nasty in the east, but so, well, good. You guys have had your fair share of snow up there.
Shadron definitely has had more than us.
Okay.
Highway 20.
Oh, definitely. So, well, we'll give everybody a few more minutes before they join us. So, I am looking, is Sharon with us? Is she? Do not see her yet.
Yeah, I don't think she's on yet, Lori.
Okay, that's fine. Not a problem. So,
Excited I had my little visitor here.
good, just let her stay.
Well, you know, she might get loud, and since how we're doing it today, I don't think that would be a good thing.
We're almost at 2 o'clock. We'll give just another few seconds. Because we do have St. Patrick's Day Friday, I turned things green. So I hope it brings us luck with weather. Okay. Well, my clock says 2 o'clock, so we will go ahead and get started. Welcome to the March edition of HomeNE here at South Central Economic Development District. I was speaking to somebody about a half an hour ago that it seems like this week in March is that week where everything's kind of crazy weather-wise. 4 years ago, the bomb cyclone hit Nebraska about this time. 3 years ago, COVID became a household word about this time, and it's the Ides of March and St. Patrick's Day. So it's just kind of a crazy week, but we are glad you are all here and taking time to join us today. So we are the lead agent for the HomeNE Learning Network, and we just want to say thank you and let you know that it is designed for people all across the state as well as outside of Nebraska, for those who are seeking to successfully address their local housing challenges. So today we have a speaker, Rex Adams. He is the chairman of One Property at a Time in Blue Springs, Nebraska. Our format today will be a little bit different. Because of a last minute work conflict, Rex was unable to join us live during this time. But he was gracious enough to spend about an hour with Sharon and myself on Tuesday afternoon, and we were able to record his presentation. So it was a great conversation. It was the fastest time of my entire day that day. So it was just a genuine conversation. We really didn't have any format for our discussion. We just peppered him with questions as they came to mind, and he was great in sharing all of the knowledge and the history of what they're doing with one property at a time. So he thought perhaps he might be able to join us today, but I have not seen him join us. So there will not be an opportunity for questions at the conclusion of his recorded presentation unless he does join us. But he does share his contact information, and we will as well. And so he was very encouraging. He wants people to reach out to him with questions. He loves to share the story of what's going on in Blue Springs. So and also at the conclusion of his presentation, please stay with us. We're going to be making an announcement about our upcoming spring gathering, and we don't want you to miss that information as well. So Sherry, I'm going to turn it over to you to start his presentation for us.
Okay, so you should see a picture of Lori, and we're going to start the video.
So Rex Adams from One Property at a Time in Blue Springs, Nebraska has joined us. And thank you, Rex, for doing this. This is a pre-recording of Rex due to a last-minute work schedule glitch. But Rex, I'm going to turn it over to you and just ask you to tell us a little bit about you, yourself, and what is your role in One Property at a Time?
Okay, my role in One Property at a Time is I'm chairman of the board. Lifelong resident within 10 miles of Wymore, Blue Springs area my whole life. I had 20 years retail in Wymore, had a business there. I worked on the railroad, Gage County supervisor. At the same time, something had to go. We got out of retail about 15, 16 years ago. The community has continually declined over time on that. So, but I spent 12 years county government, 4 of it chairman of the Gage County Board of Supervisors, 12 years in city government, 6 years as a councilman, 6 years as mayor, involved in a lot of groups that believe if you need to make change, if you don't help, you probably aren't sincere about making change. So I guess over time, I've heard every derogatory comment there could be made towards the communities of Wymore, Blue Springs. Wymore man goes to prison, Blue Springs man does this. So we've all recognized our community's been in decline for a long time. No one addressed it. We all grow complacent with accepting that Jim lives next door. Jim's a good man, but Jim's place is bad. So it all started in 2017. I don't know if that's enough interview on me or not. I mean, that gives you a little background where I'm at.
Sure.
I work for BNSF Railway, so when you call it a work glitch, it is not a work glitch. They will every day if they can, they will. So it's just not going to happen on Thursday. But 2017, Dan Disney come over to my house, and he says, we have got to do something different. We've got to stop the direction our community is going. I said, what's going on? Some lady was running down the road with a man behind her, chasing her with a knife. She ran to Dan. Well, that is where One Property at a Time, actually, the founding of 2017 is where that might have been the tipping point of it. We have had our crime. We have had our problems. We have had all sorts of issues relative to a decline of the community, the homes going down. 4 of us got together. Dan Disney, Radar Reedy, Dean Cole, and I, and we decided the problem house that this guy lived in was actually coming up at the courthouse in a week for foreclosure sale through Collection Associates. We pooled our money and we bought that house, and that was the very first house we took down, which now Cornhusker Bargain Warehouse has built a building on that. We have a business there, but that was the start of it. It was 4 of us throwing our money together, and we decided we were going to change our community one property at a time. We couldn't do it all at once. Your community doesn't deteriorate overnight. You're not going to change it overnight. But if you can address the issues one day at a time, like the issue started, you ought to be able to make change. So from that point, we got a little traction. People started coming together. People wanted to see how it would go. Is there resistance? Was there resistance? Yes and yes. We didn't have a lot of money, so we addressed some other homes. We had a fundraiser. Our initial fundraiser, we raised $28,000, which tells me the people believed in what we were doing. Most groups like this, people believe in it, but they don't want their face on it. They don't want the community upset with them. The issues we faced were many, along with the city. The city was maybe our biggest obstacle of all of it, because the city didn't want to face repercussions of the community. They didn't know how well it would be received. But now the city is on our side. After 33 houses down, we've worked in partnership with the city, between the city and us. 33 houses have come down. We have worked on over 100 properties, from brush cleaning, picking up debris from getting rid of cars, outbuildings, whatever it may be. We have worked on jointly. When I say jointly, some of these, the city has to be the active participant in it, because not everyone wants to play your game. If we can't buy it, the houses that we've bought, we give the lot away if somebody wants to build a new home. We have 2 new homes built now. We have applications for 2 more, and then another one. So actually, I think we have applications for 3 more with building permits. So hopefully they go through. So there's been a lot of effort involved by a group of people. We have about 23 people that are participants in our group. We incorporated a couple years ago because the attorneys told us we needed to. So you have to set up a dues structure, they said, with that, which we did. It's $25 a family if you want to belong. But if you don't want to be a dues paying member, we still want you involved in our projects. So no community can make change with 1 or 2 people. You got to have people believing in it, whether they're active or they're silently back there behind us also. And I guess I really I got to look at your list a little bit, huh?
So as you're looking, Rex, tell me, how big is Blue Springs?
Blue Springs, the sign says 383. Some say the current one is 273. When I was mayor in the 80s, it was 680 people, I believe. So we're like a lot of rural communities. We have lost a lot of people in a generation, basically.
Okay.
We've lost the jobs. The housing's have deteriorated. The associated problems came with the housing. Out of the 33 houses that we've taken down, though, only 5 were lived in. That kind of tells you the shape some of these homes were. And some of these homes that people were living in without sewer or water. So, I mean, it's like anywhere, when you see it on TV, it is reality.
Okay, so probably the vacant structures that you've taken down were abandoned in the 70s, 80s, somewhere in there, if not before?
Well, some of them, because, part of the obstacles we face, people, let's save it, let's rebuild it, let's do this. Well, some of these were past the point of saving, past the point of rebuilding. The floors were bad, the ceilings were bad, all the foundations caving in. And then the next thing is, do we want to acquire this and then clean it up, and then somebody spends $2,000 and you're right back where you were? Or do you take it clear down and start over? And we chose to go with a start over, because I'm going to use the word slumlord. You're going to find out I'm kind of a black and white guy, and it doesn't vary a lot in that. Some of these slumlords would take those houses and then they'd put a new roof on it, and that would be it. And we chose, if we could avoid that, we wanted to avoid that. So,
Sure. So you said you had 23 people in your group. Did you have to twist arms to get people to join? How did you recruit them to the one property at a time?
We have never recruited anybody in the aspect of join. If you feel like you want to, we want you involved. Like all groups, there's probably only 4 or 5 that really get active. But everyone contributes in their own way. Some of them that can't do some of the other things will be the ones that do the hamburger stand. They will do some of the fundraising that we need to do. So everybody contributes in their own way, just everyone contributes a little bit differently. There's not probably a perceived value more on one over another, because some of those things they're doing, I don't want to do. You know, it's one of those things. So everyone contributes differently, but they're all valued.
Okay. All members of one body, so to speak. So
Correct.
one of our speakers last month, I think basically he paints and vacuums and speaks, and that's his role. And it's important because not everybody in the group that we interviewed last month wants to be a speaker. So that was great for him. So
when you asked me that on our group, I'm going to tell you, you're probably got the only one that's really willing to speak. So
yeah, and we welcome that. So you said the city was initially against this because they didn't want to offend individuals. Was it the work that you're doing that really kind of swayed them to your side, or what changed that?
I'm going to say still to today, some of the councilmen are maybe against what is going on. We have taken, in their opinion, we have taken away from quality.
Lori, are you there?
Yes, I am.
I lost everything. I lost audio. It says my internet is unstable. So let me see if I can get this going again.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Just hang out for a moment and let Sherry work her magic to see if she can get this back for us. In the meantime, while she's working on that, maybe she's already got it.
I may have it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Rex Adams.
Okay, hold on. I have to find our location.
Which they were actively trying to do. But here again, I'm very blunt and black and white. You also got to remove some of the places that they come back to. So when those places have emptied out or whatever, we have tried to buy them. We've been successful on buying some of them. Some people may call it stupid money. I know they call it stupid money, but it's not stupid money in the aspect if you're saving your community from a future problem associated with some of that.
Okay, so your first fundraiser was $28,000. On average, what are you spending to take down these properties, or to take ownership and then to clean up and to make available? What's a common estimate that you might?
The houses we bought, some have been donated to us, but most of them are between $2,000 and $7,000. We will spend between $5,000 and $15,000 to take them down. We are extremely fortunate. The Martha and Margaret Thomas Foundation, which was 2 sisters from Wymore, have a community foundation. Their money stays in Gage County. We have been able to draw money from them. And even the Thomas Foundation caught a lot of resistance to begin with when they started funding us on giving money for that, because the sisters wanted the money to go for development of the community. And many people felt we were detrimental in taking these houses down. Since then, the Thomas Foundation has embraced what we've done. Short of Adams, which is in the northern end of the county, we have more Beatrice. I'm sure Beatrice does. They never equate anything to Beatrice. It's smaller communities. But the growth that we've had in Blue Springs, they haven't seen that since 1900s in Blue Springs, this many houses being built. So that's amazing. The Thomas Foundation Board of Directors, we've had discussions that, you know, before anything is built, sometimes you got to go back to the base. And we've tried to go back to the base. We still have people that donate money. We still have the hamburger fundraisers, the odds and end things. We're having a fundraiser in June. We're calling it Beer, Brats, Blues in Blue Springs. We're going to have a blues band, bike ride. We're trying to welcome people to our community to see the change. Over the years, most people that have come to a softball tournament have talked about the quality of houses in Blue Springs. It doesn't mean people are bad, but it does mean some people don't take care of their properties. And I think they're going to be surprised if they just did a drive around, the difference they would see. When you talk about green spaces, 33 of them. We have a lot of green space. Oh,
Yeah, I saw a picture or two, a really nice picture of your Welcome to Blue Springs sign, brick sign. But if you examine the background of it, there was just all sorts of stuff in the background of that sign. And so kind of is a testament to what you're still battling. So can you tell me a little bit about what's still ahead for you? What progress you have to make?
We have 5 houses scheduled for the spring. And I call them part of our group because technically we do all the groundwork for the city. The city has to follow through with these houses because they're all resistant. So they have to go to court. No one lives in them. They are in bad shape. 2 of them are on what we call, the main road into town. We get those down. We still have other houses out there, but we're down to only like 7 or 8 really that we can identify. We have tried to help our community people by buying paint for their house, doing those things. Well, that stuff comes to backfire on you. They get rid of the paint. They sold the paint. So some people you just flat can't help. And we have done all sorts of things. We've worked in the parks. We applied for grants on the Big Indian or Chief Standing Bear Trailhead. We've gotten grants there. We work on that. We work at Fight Park. We work at the city park. We have resided the city offices. We've repainted the bathrooms. We do the litter walks. So there's all sorts of things. When we're done with the cleanup of the community per se, I don't know if the community ever gets done with cleanup because you really cycle and there's always somebody that needs assistance, somebody that needs help. We have volunteered to help people in their yards. We've paid people to clean up their yards. And our group isn't solely Blue Springs. When we did the umbrella of our incorporation, our bylaws, our 501c3, we could go to Weimar, we could go to Gage County, we could do everything. Physically, we can't. We have our hands full here. We're willing to help them. We're willing to give them the guidance, the direction they need, but somebody's got to carry the football because there is a lot of football to carry when you start doing these projects. You got to have somebody that pushes it through. You got to have a group that's willing to do the physical labor. There will be projects. There will always be projects. We're trying to get creative on our parks. We have the river corridor, the Big Blue River. We'd like to see some things done to try to utilize it. So we're just not about tearing down houses. We're about rebuilding a community is hopefully what we end up with.
Okay. Great. When you said, go ahead, Sharon.
Well, I'm curious, Rex, if the local government ever uses tax increment financing on these. So I know you would have to have a comp plan and a blight study and a redevelopment plan, but we've been in a situation where we were able to, with funding from another entity, they helped us hire Klein Williams to put together some TIF documents where we went in and put a basement in, they went in and put a basement in, the CRA did, the Community Redevelopment Authority, and then gave the lot and that property to us, pad ready. But what I'm wondering about is where you go in and tear these down, when they're up for redevelopment, can you do a TIF agreement where you get in the incremental tax, you get enough back to cover the cost of the purchase and the demo, which would help you build a fund to revolve that, to keep that going. Have you considered that at all?
We have, it took the city 2.5 years to get the TIF study done. I don't know if they really believed in doing it to begin with. It is just finally finalized where the TIF can come into play. And you're right, we could buy a property, tear it down, and then use the TIF on that, but we haven't because we chose not to wait on the city. I know the city was really reluctant on doing the TIF, and Hannah Keelan, I think, is who did the final draft for them. But they have it now, the blight study, that's all done. So anything rolling forward now, if somebody builds a new home, all the infrastructure, the concrete poured to the property, whatever it may be, gas lines, water lines, they can TIF all that. If we bought a house to take down, we could use the TIF also, but we haven't anyway. I guess in my own mind, I like TIF. I don't like TIF.
Yeah.
I like the aspect of TIF, but I don't like the aspect of your schools, your city, your county don't get any of the finances for 15 years. I guess some of that, I have some mixed emotions on it, but if it can generate growth, can generate people, 5 new houses may be the difference keeping a cafe in town and not having a cafe in town. I mean, it's, you know what I'm getting at. It's a difference in a small community.
Absolutely. And I guess it's a matter of, the money has to come from somewhere. It's either coming from donations or it's coming from some incremental tax. It just seems to me that might be a way to keep that money revolving. So you're kind of using the same money over and over and over, and it would prevent some of that burnout, but it is not the only answer. I know some communities like Holdridge, I guess I can't speak for this year, but in the past when we visited, they don't get any state aid. So if you're doing something to bring 5 new families to town, that comes right out of the tax to pay for those kids. Now, smaller schools that get more state aid, as it's been historically, they don't mind because they get more in state aid per kid than taxes. So it has to be the right choice for each community. I just curious if that's something that you've done. That's awesome that you have the local foundation that has helped out. And I love that we have a lot of communities that call us, and it's always that, well, we want to do this or we want to do this, but you guys are doing the fundraising, you're doing the helping out, volunteering cleanup, you're helping beautify the community, you're doing the tear down. I mean, how did you put all that together? That's incredible.
A lot of it is Dan Disney does her physical stuff. So if you got brush in your yard, don't tell him you got brush in your yard, or he rolls in and you're not going to have a brush in your yard. So, I mean, everyone contributes different things. Some people like to paint. We've painted the signs in the park. Okay, that's not my stuff. I'm not into doing that, but everyone likes to do a little something different. Somebody wants to feel involved. They coordinate the litter walk to where, Keep Nebraska Beautiful gives you X amount of donation. Somebody will coordinate that. So I'm back to everyone has different interests. Everyone has different strengths. Different people do different things. And we've tried to let people run with an idea if they want to. So, because you need all of it.
How are you bringing them all together to get that like-minded so that then they go and use their strengths? But at some point, there's kind of or is it just they come up and talk to Dan, or they talk to you and you say, yeah, that's great? Or are there community meetings where you actually?
We have meetings. There for a while, we only had them when we had projects coming up, but we've been having more of them with us trying to do a promotion, the beer brats, beer in Blue Springs. we're having more of that, people showing up, involved. But we've had meetings over time where, you know, you had your core group of 4 or 5. So, I mean, I don't want to make it sound like 23 show up all the time, because 23 don't. This meeting, you might have 9. Next meeting, you might have 12. They may be different people. Life drags us different directions. We all have grandkids that seem to have every event going every hour of the day. So, I mean, some of that you're pretty restricted in what you can do. We try not to shoot anyone's idea down, is what it amounts to. And we're a small community. So, I mean, everyone recognizes, and a lot of our members, I shouldn't say a lot, but probably a third of our members actually do not live in Blue Springs. They grew up in Blue Springs, and they were the same way, tired of hearing all the negative comments of our community. A lot of our money doesn't come from Blue Springs. It comes from past Blue Springs residents. And we're like a lot of rural America. People moved away. They were successful moving away. They had a successful career, and they're in a position they want to help their childhood home. It's not the place they remembered. Everyone wants to come back to Mayberry, but Mayberry's gone. You know, so you want to try to help it as much as you can.
How do you stay in communication with those that don't live in Blue Springs to keep them excited about what you're doing? And do you celebrate? Do you gather together just to celebrate your accomplishments, maybe on a yearly basis, or what do you do to keep those out-of-towners invested?
Well, anyone that wants in, we have a text link versus an email link, because some don't email. So we have a text link. We do that. We have an annual appreciation dinner, and it's a potluck. It is coming to Mayberry. It may be in the backyard. It may be in the community center. It may be wherever it ends up. But we have an appreciation dinner to thank those that have supported us, to thank those that help us. Every year, there's always somebody that steps forward and does something differently. A couple of years ago, we had a kid in Blue Springs that won 3 gold medals at state track. You know, we're always so quick to condemn kids on the negative things they do, but very rarely does anyone acknowledge when a kid does something positive. So we had an appreciation dinner, and we invited him and his dad. And that's probably a memory that kid's always going to remember. It meant a lot to him that the people respected and appreciated what he was able to do. So we've tried to do that. We probably don't do it enough, because life is busy. Everyone has schedules, and it's tough to get people together.
One thing you said made me smile, Rex, that you gave people paint and then they sold the paint. So HomeNE we describe it as a learning network. So you learned a lesson about that. What other lessons have you learned that you might want to share with our participants along the way as they hear you speak? What are some things you would want to share with people?
Well, I guess you need to be careful when you offer what you feel is the right thing to do. We offered to buy paint for somebody else's house, and they got very, very, very upset that they can afford to take care of their own place. That was not our intention. Our intention was they keep a nice place. It was clean. It was neat. There was never anything out of place. But if we could help you with buying paint, we'll buy your paint, because you keep a nice place. And that's what we tried to convey, but that wasn't how they took it. They took it as they don't need charity. That was never the point. The other lessons are your council. If you don't have a council in there that's at least a majority of them that believe in what you're doing, you need to find a council that is, because the council is ultimately where it's at. Blue Springs has these ordinances, like every community does, that can enforce this stuff. They're still reluctant to send anyone to court on cleanup, whatever it may be. So you need to get your councilman in there in the positions that can do that stuff. And I have caught grief on, well, why aren't you a councilman? Well, I've done all that. I feel if we can work with the council and what we're doing, we can move a lot faster than the city ever can. we can accomplish a lot more if we work together. And I feel the council now is working with us. Is there some resistance? Yeah. But some of that is human nature that don't want to admit that maybe something is working. You know, because some people naturally don't want to see anything succeed no matter where they're at in their life. They're not necessarily, they want to see success, but they don't want to see you successful, if that makes any sense. So.
It definitely does. So Sharon's fairly well known for something she says, activity breeds activity. And so I'd like you to just tell us what else is happening in Blue Springs as a result of maybe what you're doing. Is your active involvement in cleaning up the community and revitalizing it, creating other activity in the area?
Well, the Keno Lounge, Steve Boardman, Papa B's, Keno Bar and Grill. Steve bought it about 2.5 years ago. And the reason he bought it is because he was seeing a directional change in the community. He put a lot of money in it, fixing it up. It's a huge success. The place is packed. Steve, like Steve said, he would have never done it 5 years ago. They're looking at building a new softball field. Whether that's part of what we've done or if it's just part of youth sports, they're proud to have people come into the community now, where at one point, maybe they were reluctant. Like I said, we have 2 new homes up, permits for 3 more. But I did meet with a gentleman 2 weeks ago, about a month ago, I guess, that actually wanted to sign a contract for all of our lots. And he told me he'd have houses on them. And then it changed. We're not off the list, but other things opened up. So, I mean, it's got people looking at Blue Springs with a positive eye. When we talked about TIF, the reluctance of the council to change, we lost a dog food plant that wanted to come to Blue Springs. It was a Weimar kid that grew up in the area, wanted to put it in Blue Springs. The city never got the TIF done. The city never took him seriously. He went to Dunbar. 17 employees. We lost out on him. He had bought other buildings in town. He had planned on doing other things. He says, I'm not doing them there now because I had planned on what you guys were doing was a trigger for his wanting to come to Blue Springs. He felt he would have opportunities for new homes to come in to house the people that he wanted. So, I mean, that's not a project, that's a project lost that we can learn from there, that I don't care how well you know somebody, you at least find out how serious they really are. And when the TIF never happened, that the TIF was a big turning point on losing that. I guess just the positive feedback we get from people, the people that come through the community, the differences, the donations that people do not have to give. When people give you their hard-earned money, obviously they believe in what you're doing. And some of these donations, these people don't have a lot of money that they're giving it, but it's their way of helping. But, you know, a $10 donation from some people is just as big as a $10,000 donation from somebody else. So we try to appreciate all those.
Well, your contagious enthusiasm is very evident for what you're doing in the community. So 2 new homes, 3 permits, what's that going to do to that population of 300 to 383?
Hopefully, you know, small communities, no one ever embraces success. First thing they set you as obstacles of why it won't work, why it will fail. They never give you, they believe this. Well, first thing they say is, you're hurting the community, you're taking the valuation away from our community. The 33 houses we've taken down, the valuation was just under 300,000. You think about that, 33 houses, just under 300,000. We now have Cornhusker Bargain Warehouse, which is a successful business that would have never came. I forgot that when you asked about successes there. The 2 new homes. So there we're at like 350,000 or more than that. I guess the one house is 200,000. The other one is 150 to 60,000. Cornhusker Bargain Warehouse, 100,000. So we're about 400,000 in just those. 2 of the permits are 324,000 each. So, we will be if the third one comes in, I think it was going to be in the 250 range. You're looking at $1 million valuation, where if you would have stayed where you were, continual decline. Senator Dorn's got LB 45, him and Tom Brandt. Myron, I served on the county board with Myron. There's more on there than just that can do to change a community. We have a house in town. I've tried to get them to have a minimal valuation on any property. Some say that's wrong. Well, if you have 20,000, you're paying taxes on an old dilapidated structure instead of 3,000, 2,000. You're going to try to get rid of that place. We have a house in town that we still have a current problem with. It is occupied. It's by the school. It's in the paper constantly. The county assessor, even though I filed a protest on changing it, still has it listed at $550. $550. They pay $10 a year in taxes. They rent that for $350 a month. Why would they sell that to us for $7,000? And so there's more in the equation that should be changed at a state level to help all of us eliminate some of these problems. The state can come up with the money to tear them down, but some people aren't going to tear them down unless it's financially costing them. And that's where, personally, I'd like to see a minimum valuation of X dollars on anything. That may not have answered your question.
No, I had Senator Dorn as one of the things I wanted to ask. Can you just summarize what he has planned if his bill makes it to the legislature and gets passed? I apologize. I meant to look up the status of it and I did not get that done.
It's sitting on the floor today. I think it's Senator Geis that's the chairman of that, has not. No, I'm on the wrong one. I'm on the railroad two-person bill. I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong bill. I do not know where that is at the moment, but what it amounts to is villages and cities of the second class. There was going to be a pool of like $10 million, I think, that you could apply for and to take down, I think they were calling it downtown housing, but what is downtown in a small community? It's probably virtually anywhere you're at.
Uh-huh.
And we don't have the luxury of using an occupation tax, a visitor's tax to channel money over to different things. LB, what is it? LB 840 money? Is that where they can
Sales
get over? Pardon me?
Sales tax money.
Yes. I mean, we don't have that luxury. So those bigger communities have avenues to raise money to do those things. So the importance of that bill, I think, is huge. And Myron was one of our first supporters in a donator when we did our first banquet. So he lives in the community of Adams. And if you've ever been to Adams, it's a very, very, very nice community. And it has many people. I'll say it again. I'm a black and white guy. When you have a hometown bank will take care of a community better than a regional bank, statewide bank, national bank. We've had I'll use an example. When we did our first fundraiser, the Weimar Bank wouldn't donate to us. The only business that did not donate, they didn't think we'd have any success. When you have that mindset in the community, your mindset is for failure. Your mindset is not for the growth or development or change of a community. You're destined to die. And you never have that. The nice communities, the Dillers, the Odells, the Adams, those are all locally owned banks, and huge, huge difference in the pride of a community.
Yeah, it does make a difference. Where do the people work that live in your community?
Lincoln, Beatrice, Marysville, Kansas. I drive to Lincoln every day. There's a lot of people.
What's that commute to Lincoln?
55 miles for me.
Oh, wow. It's an hour.
It's an hour. There are no jobs basically in town.
Mm-hmm.
Even in Wymore, your biggest employer is your school. Blue Springs is probably the same way. It's your school is your biggest employer. Now we face an issue, and I'm sure you guys face the same thing. You get new teachers, there's no houses for them. So if a teacher that wants to come to teach at Wymore can't find a house in Wymore. They look in Beatrice. They can't find a house in Beatrice. Now let's go teach at Hickman, Norris. Well, why don't I live up there now? So now all of a sudden you lost that teacher because I don't want to drive. So there's more to this equation of you've got to get rid of the blighted substandard properties to ever spur new growth, to get somebody to come for longevity of your school. When I was a kid, your teachers lived in town, they built in town, they stayed in town, your money stayed in town. I don't know how many teachers drive into our community anymore because, for one, there's no place to live.
Right, right. So are you have your own school or you're part of a consolidated?
We're consolidated. The elementary is in Blue Springs. Blue Springs and Wymore is separated by a railroad track that is no
Right.
longer there.
Mhm.
So Wymore has the high school, and then we have the surrounding communities of Holmesville, which is incorporated, 40 people, Liberty, Barnston, Liberty 70 people, Barnston's 150 people, but we're a rural community basically. So any new growth we can create here, I'm not going to say it helps the farmers on their property tax because the cost of inflation is probably absorbing everything, but everything we can do helps on that end of it also.
Mhm. Right. So, we have heard that before, that out here in Holdridge, the superintendent told Lori and I a few years ago, if the teacher can't find housing and they live in Kearney, within 3 years, they'll work in Kearney. But we are finding we've reached that critical point where that's what's waking communities up, and they're starting investment clubs for local solutions. We've seen that happen too, where it's like, okay, it's really hitting me where it counts now. We can't get teachers. We're going to do without this program this year. So sometimes you have to hit that as that wake up call. But yeah, you're not the only one seeing that. What about the 3 houses, the 2 that have been built and the 3 that are coming in? Are those customs? Are they spec homes?
Okay, the first one was a spec. It was sold before it was done. It was somebody from Lincoln. I always call it the inner city, even though, it's not. Everyone wants out of the inner city of Lincoln. And I'm going to say the majority of the houses sold down here lately have been from somewhere else. They're trying to move out of the Omahas, the Lincolns, wherever it may be. So the second house it's up by the softball field. These people are selling their $500,000 house in between Beatrice and Lincoln, and they just like what Blue Springs is doing. They like the small community, and they're building. It's either 150 or 175,000 barnuminium, and they're tickled pink and they're good people. They're older though. I mean, is that good? Is it bad? You're not. In one aspect, some say you don't want to bring in the older people. Well, those older people that way will create a home for a younger person down the road.
That's right.
The next 2 are development homes, investments. He plans on renting them, which is a huge void in our community. To have a $324,000 house to rent, he don't know if they'll rent, but he believes in it. He believes they will.
Yeah.
The advantage, if we have any on some of these developers, the building permit in Blue Springs is $1 per square foot. So if you build a 2,000 square foot home, it's $20. You do that same house in Hallam, that lot is $80,000. We'll give you a lot. Your building permit is $7,000 to $8,000. Are we having a lot of success converting that? No, but 1 home to us is a success. 2 homes is huge. 3 is astronomical. And then you ask about the 5th house will be a spec house. I believe that. So it sounds to me like slab on grade is kind of the new wave anymore instead of building basements, because the cost of a basement is what they're telling me.
Well, I wondered, when you were talking cost, I wondered if they were slab on grade, but I wondered if it was because of the water table when you mentioned the river right there.
No, it is
Okay.
purely cost, I think anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So that one developer wanted to put in some I don't know if they call them townhouses, condos, duplexes, but he wanted to do townhouses along there and rent them. And he was going for the rental market. Well, he's the one that his project in Blair opened up, and he wanted to get rolling on us. He had us excited because he was going to do it within a month, get it started. And then Blair opened up, and okay, well, I'm from Blue Springs. I've been disappointed before. It's not the first time.
But sometimes it's that somebody planted a seed. Now somebody else can take that and begin to ponder on that. And we've seen that too. Somebody big was going to do something. But I'm curious. So the two families, the couple, the barndominium, and the other that have moved in from Lincoln, did they become part of the community then?
One with the barndominium, I'm sure will be. The other one is probably a little more big city-fied, still a little reluctant, still people wave at me. You guys know exactly what I mean on that one. Some people aren't accustomed to that. And I get that sense that this one, I think he was career military, and, maybe he moved a lot, is not familiar yet with what small communities are about.
Yeah. But you have so many people involved, I bet that it won't be long before he's invited. That's the other thing. He doesn't have to go seek it out because
Right.
they'll be invited.
Well, he even said that he had more people stop by and say hello than he ever expected.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. I think we've covered a lot of this. Any last thoughts? Or Lori, do you have more questions?
Just one before we wrap up. The developers, are they Blue Springs rooted? Are they coming from larger cities? And is that a positive for you?
One had moved into here, and he has built the one house, and then the others are from somewhere else. We're like a lot of small communities. We don't have builders here anymore. When your community goes stagnant, you lose your electricians, you lose your plumbers, you lose your carpenters. We don't have that. They come from somewhere else anymore. When I was a kid, all those crafts were represented in, Blue Springs, Weimar combined population when I was a kid was probably 3,000. And now it's probably 16 to 17, 1,800. So all crafts anymore come from somewhere else. And there isn't a concern that if they get away from, they can build quickly in Hallam and Hickman's, Milford's, somebody's there to take it over. There's somebody to come in and do their craft. Well, if they get an hour away from Lincoln, are they going to have trouble finding trades to come in and do that? So that discussion always comes up.
Okay. Well, Rex, I think we're probably about the end of your time and our time, but I do want to just say thank you. It's been very informative, and it's been a quick time. I can't believe just all the information you've shared. If somebody wants to get a hold of you after the fact, after they've had a chance to watch this, how best to do that? What can they do to reach out to you?
I work for cookies, chocolate chip. So they can reach out to me on One Property at a Time. I think it's onepropertyatatime.ne.com, I think. And there's something I want to touch about. Our webpage and our Facebook is done by, I put a lot of stuff on our Facebook, but Skylar is the grandson of Dan, or it's a son-in-law of Dan. He does that for us. That webpage, if you look at it, is very professionally done. We did not do that. So, or my number is 402-520-2434. If I can answer, I will. If I can't, I can't, that type deal. But we will help anybody, any way we can. And we welcome all of you to come have a beer and a brat. June 3rd at Blue Springs, we're going to have a cornhole tournament and bike ride. We're trying to use some visitor dollars to advertise it. And invited the governor, Senator Brandt, Senator Dorn, Senator Slama, because they're all instrumental in the LB 45. Mr. Pillen's aware of that. You guys can do all you want to bring in development, but if you don't have places for people to live, how are you going to get somebody that wants to have 400 employees if there's no place for 400 employees?
Right, right. So yeah, as a result of talking to you the first time, I now follow you on Facebook. So yeah, it is great information, and I checked out your website. But Rex, I do want to thank you for the time you've invested in not only this time together, but into your community. Sharon and I are both rural at heart, and we love seeing people take back their community, if I can say it that way. So.
And that's exactly what you need to do, though.
Yeah,
We've all allowed our communities to deteriorate.
Yeah.
You know, so you're exactly right.
Yeah. So thank you so much for your time,
Thank you.
Sharon. Any last thoughts? No, she's good. So thank you once again. We greatly
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Good night. Bye.
And that was the conclusion of our video with Rex and with Sharon. We may not win an Oscar for our best video production, but it was a great story, great information, and we wanted to bring it to you in the best way we could. And Rex, I see you did join us recently. Are you unable to mute yourself?
Did that
Rex?
work?
There.
Did that work?
There you are. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me.
Yes, we have on the screen some of the statistics that you shared during our conversation on Tuesday. Do you want to just give our attendees a little bit of a look? Can you see it? Are you calling from your computer or phone?
I am calling while I'm going down the highway, so I probably won't look at the screen.
So what
But
we have is the graph that shows the decline of calls to the Gage County Sheriff's Office. Do you want to just briefly talk about that?
Well, I think when you look at it, I think 213, there was maybe 489 or something like that. In 2022, it might have been 249. And the sheriff presented this to us before he presented it to the city council. He has stopped and told us every time we have an appreciation dinner, we invite law enforcement, state patrol, sheriff's office, local PD. And he is very grateful. Some of his problem houses, you get rid of the houses, some of the problems disappear with them. So from that end of it, I think the data alone purely says that it is working.
Okay. So we actually included 3 different pages of your sheriff's report. So we had the overview. We also showed the significant decline in disturbance calls, assault calls, and harassment, as well as burglary, thefts, and suspicious calls. Definitely a decline over the last few years. So that is definitely a testament to what you're doing there in the community. So thank you for that. Does anybody have any questions? Since Rex is available, did something come to mind that you'd like to know more about? I'm just very excited to continue to follow the progress that you're making, Rex, you and your community leaders and volunteers. Jamie does have a question. How much have you put into the community so far? Do you have an idea?
I bet it's close to 200,000.
Okay.
It's not cheap. Getting rid of the homes, and we're not just burning them and dozing them in. We're cleaning a lot. So if somebody comes in and they want a basement, we are trying to make it welcoming. So I don't know if that answers the question, but that's between the city and one property at a time. The city's been applying for the same grants we do. We do basically all the foundation work. When I say that, we get all the inspections. But some of these, the city's got to take to court to do. So hand in hand together, 33 houses have come down.
Okay. And I don't know if it was in the interview that we recorded or talked about before. roughly how much are you spending per house or property that you take down or clean up?
Well, I didn't touch on it, I don't think, in our speech now, but we have started the area farmers. Some of them have really recognized the change we make. Their kids go to the same schools everyone else does. The last 3 batches, area farmers have donated their excavators. We're no longer hiring it done. When we were hiring it done, it was 15 to 25,000 a house. When we do it on our own, the last go around, we did 5 houses for $22,000. So that is huge. The farmer donates the excavator. We supply the insurance. The city supplies the insurance and the man to run the piece of equipment. They're fortunate they have a man that can. And that's what we're going to do next round, the next 5 also.
Okay.
And
Good.
I do have an update on the value of working with the city, and the city can put pressure on that we cannot. I think I told you that some of these, the landowners are resistant. They won't sell. They don't want to do anything with it. You can't make me. Well, going to court is the only thing they can. I received a phone call yesterday from one that received a letter from the city that we are starting the inspection process. We're going to condemn your house. They called me last night and they want to work with us. So that is huge.
Definitely, definitely. So there is a question, and I think maybe you were sharing what you would like to see, but would you please clarify, is there another bill in the legislature for the minimum property assessments that you spoke about in the video?
No, that is something I have tried to get them to do. And I don't know if I touched on it. Syracuse has, we call it the Syracuse ordinance. You may be familiar with a bill that came through a year or so ago that changes how a community can go after a property that neglects their yard, whatever it may be. They can start assessing damages to it. And Syracuse, we got a copy of their ordinance. It'd be worth a phone call to ask for a copy of their cleanup ordinances. And we couldn't get our city to implement it. And they were just reluctant. But in my opinion, I received 3 pictures today of the problem house that I was talking about that's assessed for $550. Any of you that got a computer, Gage County Assessor, Ron Rainey, there's a house there that's assessed at $550. That's a problem house. People today want to see something done with it. We cannot do anything on that. The city has to push on ordinances, and they're reluctant to do that. I mean, they work with us. I don't mean to beat up the city, but the city sometimes is the only avenue you have on getting this stuff done.
Okay, good. Thank you for that clarification. So, are there any other questions for Rex as he's driving down the road? Well, if not, want to go ahead and start wrapping up. Rex, we are showing your phone number and email, I believe, on the screen. And is there a good time to reach out to you?
Well, anytime, basically. I work the railroad, so sometimes I just flat cannot answer, but I will call you back.
Okay.
And so, I mean, if I can talk, I'll talk. If not, I'll get back with you.
Okay, wonderful. You are a wonderful person to have a conversation with about these things. So I do encourage everybody to reach out to you. So today's webinar, as well as past webinars, will be available on our website, which is listed there on the screen. You can search for a topic of interest to you. So take advantage of that and go back and refresh on any number of webinars that might be of interest. And then, as I mentioned, we wanted to make you aware of some upcoming events. Of course, next month is our monthly webinar on April 20th, but we are excited to let you know today that we have confirmed a date for our spring gathering. We're going to be doing that on Thursday, June 22nd, and we're returning to Central City. We visited Central City in 2017 as part of our inaugural learning journey. And so we're going to be spending the day in Central City, located in Merritt County, and taking advantage of their hospitality and checking out some projects that are going on in that area. So be watching your email in the coming weeks for more information about that gathering. And we hope to see many of you there. So I'm excited to see all of you in June. So Rex, any final thoughts?
No, not really. I mean, thank you for, I hope success for everyone in rural Nebraska. We're not unique. We face the same problems you all face, and it's to take back our community. It's not easy. People are reluctant to change, whether they know it's right or wrong. But if you want your community to continue to thrive and go forward, we've got to start addressing these issues.
Well, and
That's it.
yeah, you and your community members have done a fantastic job, and we greatly appreciate you taking time both today and on Tuesday to speak with us. So thank you all to every one of you for joining us today, and I hope that it was informational and helpful. And feel free to reach out to Rex or Sharon or myself if you have additional questions or thoughts. And we're always looking for storylines. So if you know of something in your part of the state, let us know, and we'll be glad to check into it. So if there is nothing else, thanks for joining us and have a great rest of your week.